Hey everyone, and welcome. Have you ever really stopped to think about what happens to the food you eat after you swallow it? Today, we're going on a fascinating journey to follow that food from your plate to the very fuel that powers your body. We're going to unravel the incredible process that turns food into, well, you. Okay, so just look at this. You've got all this amazing fresh food on a plate. But how in the world does a tomato, or a piece of bread, or chicken transform into the energy you need to walk, or the building blocks for your muscles, or even the fuel that powers your very thoughts? That's the amazing story we're diving into. You know, when you get right down to it, the whole mission of our digestive system is actually pretty simple. The food we eat is made of these huge, complex molecules, and our cells just can't use them in that form. So the entire process is basically a disassembly line. It's all about breaking those big structures down into tiny, usable units. And this right here shows you exactly what we're talking about. Those big, complex carbohydrates, they have to be broken down into simple sugars like glucose. Proteins get dismantled into their fundamental building blocks, amino acids. And fats, well, they're taken apart into fatty acids and monoglycerides. Think of these as the only currency your body actually accepts. Now, this whole transformation isn't just random chaos. Oh no, it follows a super precise 6-step master plan. You can think of it as an incredibly efficient assembly line just running in reverse. Let's take a look at the blueprint. So it all kicks off with ingestion. That's just taking the food in. Right away, secretion begins, adding all sorts of fluids and enzymes. Then mixing and propulsion keeps everything moving along, which leads us to the main event, digestion, where the real breakdown happens. After that, absorption pulls all the good stuff into your body. And finally, defecation gets rid of whatever's left over. So, where does all this action take place? The stage for this whole performance is the gastrointestinal, or GI tract. And really, it's just one super long, continuous tube. And what's wild is that from your esophagus all the way to the very end, it shares the same fundamental 4-layered structure. Let's dig into that a little. The diagram on the left shows the basic blueprint. You've got the inner mucosa, the submucosa, the muscularis for movement, and the outer serosa. Now look to the right. That's the complex reality, an incredibly intricate network of blood vessels, nerves, and glands. It's the same basic design, just brilliantly adapted for different jobs all along the tract. All right, so where does this incredible journey actually begin? Let's start right at the gateway, the mouth, where digestion officially kicks off, and the esophagus, which is like the transport highway. The second that food enters your mouth, or oral cavity, two things happen at the same time. Your teeth begin the physical breakdown, and your tongue starts mixing it all together. This is the first critical step in that whole disassembly process. And here you can see that two-pronged attack in action. Mechanically, you've got chewing, or mastication, which tears the food apart. And chemically, your saliva gets right to work. It's got salivary amylase to start breaking down carbohydrates, and lingual lipase, which begins the digestion of fats from the get-go. So once the food is chewed into a nice, soft mass that we call a bolus, you swallow. But swallowing, or deglutition, is way more complex than you might think. It starts with a voluntary action, the buccal stage, but it quickly becomes a totally involuntary automatic reflex as it passes through your pharynx and into the esophagus. Now, the esophagus isn't just some passive tube. No way. It actively pushes the food down to the stomach using these powerful, coordinated waves of muscle contraction called peristalsis. It doesn't do any digestion itself, its only job is transport, and it secretes mucus to keep the journey smooth and to protect its own lining. Okay, so after its trip down the esophagus, our food bolus arrives at its next major destination. And this place, it's an incredibly powerful organ of chemical warfare. We've reached the stomach. This J-shaped organ is a muscular marvel. It acts like a mixing chamber, churning the food with powerful contractions, and as a chemical reactor, dousing it in a potent cocktail of gastric juices. The goal? To create a soupy liquid called chyme. So what's in that gastric juice? You've got hydrochloric acid, or HCl, which creates an environment so acidic it kills most microbes. It's like your body's first line of defense against food poisoning. It also activates an enzyme called pepsin to start attacking proteins. Intrinsic factor is absolutely vital for absorbing vitamin B12, and crucially, a thick layer of mucus protects the stomach from, digesting itself. And this system isn't just on all the time. That would be a disaster. This diagram shows us exactly how the stomach controls its acid production. It's a beautifully precise feedback loop. Hormones and nerve signals tell specialized cells when to pump out acid, and then other signals tell them when to stop. All right, the chyme is now ready to leave the stomach and enter the main event, the central hub of both digestion and absorption, the small intestine. This is where most of the magic really happens. To be so good at absorbing nutrients, the small intestine needs one thing above all else, an absolutely enormous surface area. And it has this ingenious 3-level system to achieve it, packing the equivalent of a tennis court's worth of surface area right inside your abdomen. Let's zoom in on how it does this. First, the entire inner wall is thrown into these large circular folds that slow the food down. Then, at level 2, covering every single one of those folds are millions of these tiny finger-like projections called villi. This alone multiplies the surface area like crazy. But we're not done. Let's zoom in again to level 3. Each individual cell on the surface of the villi is covered in thousands of even smaller projections called microvilli. This forms a structure called the brush border, and it's right here on this immense surface that the final breakdown and absorption of nutrients take place. So yeah, the small intestine is the star of the show for sure, but it can't do its job without some critical support from some powerful friends. So who are these essential helpers? Well, it's the pancreas, liver, and gallbladder. They all produce and deliver vital substances into the very first section of the small intestine, called the duodenum. And, as this diagram shows, they share a common plumbing system to make sure their secretions arrive precisely when and where they're needed. The pancreas delivers 2 key things. First, bicarbonate to neutralize that harsh stomach acid, which creates a safe environment for enzymes to work. Second, it sends in a powerful cocktail of enzymes to digest every major food group. Meanwhile, the liver produces bile, which gets stored in the gallbladder. Bile's job is emulsification. It breaks large fat globules into tiny droplets, giving the fat-digesting enzymes a much larger surface to work on. Okay, we're on the home stretch now. After the small intestine has absorbed almost all the nutrients, the remaining indigestible material passes into the final part of the GI tract, the large intestine. The large intestine has a few crucial final tasks. Its primary job is to absorb most of the remaining water, turning that liquid waste into a solid form. It's also home to trillions of beneficial bacteria that actually produce essential vitamins for us. And finally, it compacts this waste into feces and prepares it for elimination. So there you have it. From the very first bite to the final exit, the digestive system performs this perfect symphony of mechanical grinding, chemical reactions, hormonal signals, and muscular propulsion. It's an incredible disassembly line, working non-stop inside you right now. So as we finish up, just think about it. Which part of this intricate journey do you find the most amazing?
Comment your next topic and subscribe MedX Lab.